Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over an older unique that has been updated for 1.50, and this one is the Blue Rose. The Blue Rose has gotten some pretty crazy changes, and I'm actually kind of excited to potentially try this out as a like a full ice spike build. I actually really want to play around with this. It's probably going to be something that we're going to be doing later in the season, by the way. So right now you can see it has 10% resistance to all elements, which is pretty standard across rings, and then 10% cold res as well, which is thematically fitting for the ring. Obviously, it's cold. We also have a 9% to 11% critical strike chance, which is certainly not terrible. And then we have a massive 170% top end on the cold damage bonus, which is really nice. Then we also have 350% ice spike damage, which is really interesting. So they've really kind of postured this as an ice spike ring, and there's a lot of different aspects that do have ice spikes on them, and we're going to explore some of those in a minute after we talk about the rest of this. We also have a 26 to 35% chance for ice spikes to explode twice, which is something that doesn't exist on any other item. So if you are trying to set up an ice spike build, I do believe that Blue Rose is literally your best in slot for a ice spike build at this point. Like if you're trying to do an ice spike blizzard or something of that nature, this is the way to go. And then on top of this, we also have the lucky hit, or the main effect, which is lucky hit up to a 30% chance to form an exploding ice spike, dealing 4,412 cold damage, and you triple this chance if the enemy is frozen. So for instance, it's a 30% chance normally, but if the monster is frozen, then you get a 30 to 60, 60 to 90, so a 90% chance to form an exploding ice spike if the monster is frozen. Now, let's go ahead and play around with some Blizzard real quick, just for fun. And if we go ahead and cast Blizzard on the monsters here, you'll see that for the most part, it's pretty static at like 50,650. No real spikes for the most part as the blizzards are going on. Now, if you put on the Talrash's Iridescent Loop, what you're going to notice is that it changes to have these these spikes, exactly like spikes, but like you can't really quite see them as easily. But you'll notice that like every now and then, like you'll just have this like 153k there, and so forth and so on. And these are the lucky hit bonuses, of course, coming in and causing these additional spikes of damage. That was 173, 167, and so forth and so on. And so the Blue Rose is really giving you a nice little additional ice spike, as well as a chance to double those ice spikes, which is really interesting. Now, the flavor text on this is, her lover's spirit faded, and in her sorrow she wept frozen tears. Where they fell, roses of the purest ice would blossom each winter. Greenslade's Tales, Chapter 7, The Myth of Irina the Cold Heart. Now, let's go take a look at some of these aspects that could potentially pair very well with this item. Because I feel like the Blue Rose isn't really like a full item on its own, since it's enhancing other things that can potentially give you ice spikes. And so going over some of the other aspects that could potentially give you ice spikes and enhance the ice spikes in a myriad of ways is definitely a good way to kind of highlight the power of this item. So let's just go ahead and type in ice spike. And we're going to pull up all the ice spike aspects. So first off, we've got the aspect of the frozen tundra, which is while deep freeze is active, exploding ice spikes form in an area dealing 5,206, 5,294 at maximum cold damage, and your ice spikes have a 50% increased explosion radius. So this one is really interesting because you don't actually have to be using deep freeze, but by using this aspect, you can get a 50% increased explosion radius on your ice spikes, allowing them to dish out more damage, which you could also be using deep freeze as well for more ice spikes, but either way, this aspect is going to help you out by increasing the radius of the ice spikes, and it's also going to work for the Blue Rose. We also have the aspect of the Frozen Wake, which is while ice armor is active, you leave behind exploding ice spikes that deal 4,412 damage, and your ice spikes deal 15% times increased damage to frozen enemies. So this is another one that you could potentially add in that would add even more ice spikes and also give you additional damage for your ice spikes in the process. Then we also have the glacial aspect, which is when you cast your blizzard, periodically spawn exploding ice spikes that deal 3,088 damage, and your ice spikes chill enemies for 15%. So as you can see here, we have three aspects that can be used to increase the damage and the radius and all sorts of other things, adding in more ice spikes to various abilities. And you can definitely stack on many, many ice spikes together in a very nice little chain. In fact, if you were to put on the glacial aspect for Blizzard, the frozen wake aspect for your ice armor, and the frozen tundra aspect, as well as the blue rose, you would have a total of 4 different ice spikes all going at the same time. One from Blizzard, one from ice armor, one from deep freeze, and one from lucky hit. And those 4 ice spikes would be larger, doing more damage, and they would also chill enemies when they hit them as well. So you could potentially have a large number of ice spikes going at any given time. And of course, the blue rose's special effect, which gives you the ability to double those ice spikes. And in fact, if I was going to do this build, I would really want to find a greater affix chance for the ice spikes to explode twice, because that would be really multiplying the damage, because then I can get masterworking and hopefully get that up to almost nearly 100% masterworking, so that the ice spikes are always basically exploding twice, getting massive amounts of damage there from that. And in fact, I would most likely at the very least be utilizing the glacial aspects, because I would want to combine the blizzard ice spikes with the blue rose ice spikes at the bare minimum. Um, all in all, though, the Blue Rose is definitely one of those rings that was interesting when it first came out, and it's only gotten more interesting as time's gone on. I've actually already created, before they changed it, I created a full ice sorceress basically around the idea of the Blue Rose, and it was actually surprisingly powerful. It was a little bit lackluster on bosses, but you know, what sorceress builds aren't lackluster on bosses. Season 5 has only just started to change that, but for the most part, pretty much every single build was lackluster on bosses up to a certain point. And when it came to the regular monsters in the game, though, nothing could move because everything was frozen and everything was dying from ice spikes, and it was glorious. I'm actually excited this season, and you'll probably have to check in at some point to see if I've created the build to actually make this build. I want to play around with what it's like to have a full, ridiculous Blue Rose Ice Spike Sorceress, so that should be fun. If you're looking to pick this item up, I know for a fact that it comes from Duriel and Endariel, but if you want to take a look at our uh, target farming tool on Diablo 4.life, we do have one here where you can very easily pull this stuff up. So you can just simply select Blue Rose, and you'll see it says Duriel, Maggot King, and a Dariel Maiden of Anguish. So this is something that comes specifically from those. You could pick it up in the open world as well, but if you kill Duriel and you kill Andariel, it's a very good chance you're going to get one of these. In fact, I might have to do a little bit of farming on those to see if I can get one that has a greater affix for the Ice Spike Sorceress that I want to make eventually. I think that's pretty much it with this particular item. Let me know what you guys think about the new version of the Blue Rose. Are you interested in making any builds with it? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. And as always, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you enjoy the content. And keep watching.